I am.
All right, welcome in. It's the signing day show. We're going to do a podcast, but we're here in the Bob Goen team room. And
we're going to do a podcast on top of this?
No.
Oh,
I said we were going to do a
place.
podcast,
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
but we're here.
Yes.
And we're gonna do video instead, so you get to see Tim's lovely face.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Pretty good signing day for the Bearcats.
Yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster for fans because you lose guys like Deshaunte Jones and Jeremy Larkin and Sean Bailey and there were other guys too, Liam O'Sullivan that went down the pipe, Romello Webster, Andrew Parchment. But you also get, I thought they recovered really nicely down at the end. Half this 15 that we see on here were kids that had double-digit offers that
and a lot of BCS offers.
A lot of BCS, a handful
Power
of
five,
those,
as call it now.
Yeah. So I think they recovered rather nicely here. There were some places where you'd like to maybe be a little bit better, but the thing I also like about this, and I know some of our members agree with me, is that there's still more room.
Yeah.
And when you're Cincinnati, you're not an Ohio State that's going to get the Bosa boys, and you're not going to get the number one or the top 300 kid more likely at a Cincinnati.
But if a kid wants to transfer,
but if a fifth-year kid wants to transfer, or if a high school kid all of a sudden gets academically qualified late that maybe was a Power 5 school guy or a junior college guy who you think had grade problems, all of a sudden graduates, you've got some room to really add some nice players at maybe a month from now or 2 months from now. So I really like, and I think it's hard to turn away guys sometimes, but I really think Cincinnati has to continue to do this method. And I was glad that they had some spots near the end because we saw some really good players fall to the Bearcats.
So you got your superlatives in mind? Any guys that jump out in terms of the most athletic guy in the class, or who you think on defense can make an impact?
Yeah, I don't. There's some things here I do want to talk about, and when we talk about the fastest or that kind of thing, you don't really want a lot of freshmen playing anyway.
Right.
I think that the places where they can play and can help you is in those skill positions. And Jaron Rollins is a kid, and amazingly, 17 offers, close to half of those were BCS offers. They get him here last weekend, and I was talking to Coach Rowland, and he was at Tennessee when Derek Rogers, remember him? I think he got in some trouble and they got rid of him. And he compares Rollins to Rogers. Now, I think that's pretty high praise. I know Rogers didn't really make it in the NFL, but he was a very talented kid, as Cincinnati saw when they went down there when Butch Jones had to play Tennessee. So of the group of receivers, I know he would be one I would put out there as one of the top gets. I know they're extremely high on Thomas Geddes. Coach talked about that. We'll have that up there. And Jared Dokes, just a brilliant move by them. They were only going to take one running back. That was Larkin, but they took Dokes as an athlete because he was too good to pass up. They were going to stick to their word. Larkin was going to be the running back. Dokes could have played a variety of spots, but I think his best spot is probably running back, and I think that's what he's going to be here, and I really like him.
Well, he had one of the best years of anybody in the state of Indiana, and Indiana's become a really strong football school, their state of late.
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. So I think he was a good kid for them. I think he's a guy that kind of, slipped through the cracks a little bit. I love all the receivers that they got. They all bring something a little bit different. To get these 5 guys in here after we just lose, or UC just loses 6 guys, I think it's going to be closer to a reload than a rebuild for them in that particular area. I love these linebackers. And we were just talking.
That's probably your favorite position group that they've signed, right? It's the linebackers, right there with the wide receivers.
Yeah, it would probably be because what you're doing here, and again, I was talking with Dan Hort here just a minute ago, and I think when Cincinnati was really good at they recruited guys and they grew their players, and I think that we saw guys grow into defensive ends, or we saw a tight end grow into a defensive or tackle, And I think all 3 of these guys, I think Perry Young, he's listed here at 5'10", and that's a kid that can run sideline to sideline, and he is a guy that will hit you. And if this kid was 3 inches taller, I don't think he's on this list.
Well, and he's a guy that's more valuable now because he hits like a linebacker, plays kind of like a linebacker, but has the size and speed of a defensive back.
Yeah.
And with the spread, those guys, Leviticus Payne, or and that type of guy increasingly more valuable in college football.
I agree, and Tyquan Statham, who, people put him down as a linebacker, running back, athlete. So here's another kid, not terribly big, 6 foot 214, but in another year or two, this kid really runs well. AAA All-State in Georgia, and Ty Sponsoli, we were talking about him, 6'3", big frame on him. Ryan Coslin was here, and he just told us that he got listed here 195, but he's probably closer to 215. And the thing I like about him too, he's a kid that wants to be here. Cincinnati kids that really want to be Bearcats generally have good careers here. Yeah. So he's a guy that didn't get, he's kind of gets overlooked because he was so solid in his commitment. He is a guy moving from safety to linebacker, but I just really think that's the way to go at a lot of these G5 places. You move guys in and toward the middle.
Yep.
And that's the way I think you build a really good team. So I think recruiting-wise or ranking-wise, it's always a mystery to me how they do some of these things. We saw Kayvon Wallace, who of course was here for committed for a long time.
Yeah, he instantly got a lot better.
Yeah, well, but not by his ranking. They moved him from a 2-star to 3-star, but just barely. The guy had all these offers, and so I don't really understand.
That's still one of the strangest things I've ever seen. The kid's a complete unknown for 7 months, and then all of a sudden, Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan State, Pitt, everybody jumps in on a guy that seemingly Cincinnati was the only one that knew about. It literally, like Tommy talked about, and it's literally like they just went to Cincinnati's commit list and went, all right, this is the best G5 program. What defensive backs do they got? All right, let's pull up the film on this kid.
Yeah.
And there's Kayvon Wallace, and all of a sudden he's going to the national champs. And it just, that one completely baffles me in terms of it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I can tell, when you talk about the Cincinnati staff and the evaluation of talent, they had Carrier Williams, who ends up going to Wisconsin, I think is where he was after he left Cincinnati. Romello Webster goes to a Power 5 school in Iowa State. And Kayvon Wallace ends up going to Clemson. Of those three, I know Wallace was the guy highest on their board. And one of the things, when people see some of these kids decommit, and I kept my mouth shut on a lot of these guys throughout the process, but Carrier, people say, well, they come in here for an official visit, so Cincinnati clearly wants them. And I've been trying to say, it's a two-way street there, and there's a lot that goes on during that official visit. Yeah. Kids get extensive medicals. They have to look at grades. They look to see how a kid behaves while he's on his visit. And Carrier Williams was a guy that medically was a problem for Cincinnati. And from what I have heard, they actually asked him to gray shirt because of I don't want to say the specific injury, but it was a concern because this type of injury can reoccur.
Right.
So they wanted him to move back. So when you lose a guy like that, that's maybe one of the reasons why. Maybe not. Maybe Carrier Williams would have gone to Wisconsin anyway. But he wasn't a guy where Cincinnati looked at and said, well, Marquise Smith is a guy that we like a lot better. And I think they do actually like him better. And then Romello Webster was a guy that, went to Iowa State and committed to Iowa State and then didn't really say he was committed to Iowa State. And when you do those things, sometimes that's a character issue. And so you have as a coach, you have a chance to either take a guy like that and bring him in or not take a guy like that. And I like the idea of, unless a guy's a hell of a stud, let him move on and go someplace else. And because a lot of the time, enough of those character issue type guys can be a big problem in your locker room down the road.
And on the basketball side, I've always been a guy that if you're not willing to compete for playing time, if you're looking for, I just want to go somewhere where there's nobody on the roster in front of me, to me that's a red flag. I want guys that want to that look at and say, you know what, I'm good enough. I'm going to come in and play. And sometimes it makes sense that, I don't necessarily fault DeShante Jones because he heard a coach saying, we're going 3, so we're only going to have 1 slot receiver. We're playing a tight end more. And there's a bunch of guys that are kind of in front of you where at Iowa State there's not. But I just don't like kids that are scared of competition. And I think you see that a lot in college football recruiting where they just say, well, this team, they don't have anybody at my spot, so I'm going to go there. Where I don't have to prove myself or I don't have to really battle for a spot. I'm just going to go in there and they've promised me I'm going to start from day one. I like kids that like to battle, that like to work and earn it.
coaches won competition because
Yeah.
we all know that brings out the best in players. But another kid that came here on official visit was Darian Anderson, who was a Georgia commit previously. And I know that was a great kid, would have loved to have been here, but through the battery of tests and for whatever was done, there was something a test that didn't come out the way they hoped it would. And Georgia Southern was a school that was more than willing to take a chance on a guy like that. So it just comes down to what you're comfortable with. So that was another guy that could have been a great addition, but a tough decision had to be made with him, and so he ends up going someplace else. So with Sean Bailey, I think a lot of that came down to his going to East Carolina. I really think Coach Hiller not being here, he was such a big part of that recruitment. But a decision was made to go with another guy, and I think Coach Grimes has a new set of eyes that maybe will actually help in the tackle position. Maybe he'll see something in another kid to play tackle that maybe Coach Hiller didn't. But I think that was one of the reasons that they lost him. So those are some of the backstories on some of these guys and why things ended up the way they did.
Would that tackle spot maybe be somewhere you keep an eye on, a fifth-year guy?
You could, although I think
But they've got a
that's
couple seniors as is, right?
Yeah, I think finding a fifth-year tackle. Do you really want a fifth-year tackle who can't play at his school? That's a spot where, unless there's a coaching change and he just says, I just want to go someplace
right.
else. And it could be a MAC guy. It could be a MAC guy that says, I'd much rather play at a Cincinnati than play at the Athens, the Harvard on the hockey. Hard to imagine anyone wanting to leave Athens, but I guess that's always possible.
Anything else?
Well, we're going to use this time to announce. It's been going on we've known about it for quite some time, and things are leaking out. But my time at Bearcat Journal is coming to an end, and my wife is retiring at the end of April, and I'm going to basically retire with her, I guess is the way I would phrase that. I'll be still around to do some baseball here at Bearcat Journal, and I'll help Chad with the spring football, but the torch is definitely being passed. He will be the sole owner here. For those people that have been longtime followers of me at Bearcat Insider and Bearcat Lair and ESPN when we were affiliated with them, and now here at Bearcat Journal, I really appreciate your taking all those stops with me. I mean, you certainly didn't need to do that. I wish I could thank all of you personally. It's been a lot of fun. This year has been not so much fun, and it makes it a little easier to pass the torch, but we actually knew this, or I was pretty sure back in August this was going to happen, and that was one reason why Chad started getting more involved with the football end of things. So, I don't know what's in store for me, but it will not be another recruiting website. That much I can guarantee.
I will hunt you down.
Yeah, my byline will never appear at another recruiting website. So I have a lot of people to thank, and I can't probably thank everybody enough. But I hope ultimately it's up to you folks to decide whether I did a good job or a bad job, or I rubbed you wrong or whatever. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting to know a lot of the people here, and I know the website will still go on and do well.
Well, thanks for putting up with me. It's been a pleasure.
You were an easy partner to deal with, because when I got mad, you let me get away with. Actually, I don't know. Did we ever have an argument? Really?
We never really had an argument.
I don't think in 4 years. I don't think we've ever had an argument.
No. You want to have one now?
No.
Well, Tim, it is greatly appreciated. You are always welcome on the message boards.
I don't know if I'll be there.
If you'd like, you can come back as a fan and harass me.
Yeah.
I'm sure that would be fun for you, sitting up at night, not having to write Tim's tidbits and firing off some hot takes at me and making me deal with them. But it has been a pleasure. You've been doing this for 12 years. I've been doing it for 10, and the past 4 or 5 have been by far the most smooth and the easiest to deal with, and it's been a great working relationship. And I've never wanted to fire you. Now I'm going to have to be in the position of daily wanting to fire myself, but I'll figure it out. We've talked to the staff. For the most part, I think everybody is nobody's jumping ship, so everything should continue on as planned. And I've started making some inroads and getting ready for your impending retirement, and I wish you well. I'm still unsure. Did your wife want you to retire because she's retiring? Or did she want you to keep working so that she could have some time to herself?
She is such a good woman. She's actually looking forward to spending more time. We're playing disc golf. We got a little frisbees. We're going to try that.
When she gets sick of you, the door's open.
You won't see my shadow on that doorway. 12 years has been enough.
Thank you, partner. It's been a great time. That's signing day coverage, and unfortunately, Tim, moving on, but we'll still be around. He's going to help me get through spring football, like he said, and baseball coverage with Ty Neal will also continue on Bearcat Journal from Tim Adams, and you never know. Get a couple pops in him at a football game, you might see him on the message board. I'll keep your account active.
Thank you. I would like to probably look at it occasionally, but if I ever post on there, I hope you will call me up and say, get the heck off of that board.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. Signing day coverage here from Cincinnati. I'm Chad Brendel. He's Tim Adams for the last time on BearcatJournal.com.
All right. Takes care of that. And cut.